I'm going to talk about the failures of the Me Too movement and why it's problematic that people in Hollywood and the media are the ones leading the conversation around sexual assault and how to address it and conceptualize it. What is the end goal? To have case after case of high-profile perpetrator held accountable in long-running newspaper headlines that never really disintegrates the infrastructure that enables those perpetrators? Where are all Harvey Weinstein's accomplices? And we know some of them were women, but they're all fine. His brother is fine. So let's talk about why this is problematic. It's Mr. Anthony Bourdain, but no one remembers it. Asia Argento was one of the first victims of Harvey Weinstein to publicly come forward in Ronan Farrow's article. She was also Anthony Bourdain's girlfriend. Shortly after she came forward as a Harvey Weinstein victim, a young man came forward and said that she essayed him when he was a minor, and Anthony Bourdain helped her figure out how to pay him off. She was 37 years old and he had just turned 17. She played his mom in a movie years earlier and then claimed she didn't know he was a minor. The victim was paid over $300,000. The lawyer Asia hired to confidentially handle that settlement also subsequently handled Anthony Bourdain's estate after he himself. The news of this confidential settlement only came to light approximately 2 months after Bourdain passed away. And you see, when Me Too broke and Asia came forward and she was his girlfriend, he was very vocal about reflecting on his past behavior, what he has seen in his life in the kitchens, etc., and how he was going through this whole reevaluation of society and social norms to hopefully foster a more equitable and safe environment for all people. But that's not what he was doing. He likely helped facilitate that payment and settlement to that survivor. Asia said that Anthony Bourdain wanted to settle the matter privately because they felt it was a shakedown and they didn't want it to get litigated in the public domain. So this goes to the question of, wow, was that a good solution for Anthony Bourdain? Was not practicing what he preached something worthy of the punishment that he gave himself? No. And that's the problematic language of believe survivors, yes. But also, in the Hollywood universe, everything works really differently when you have publicists and lawyers and all these people that can get involved and make it a thing. So, as regular people, do we say, okay, let's just parade one celebrity abuser after another and learn all the gory details of these sexual assaults or alleged ones and re-traumatize people because we're hearing all these horrific experiences? Or do we want to actually talk to people who know about these issues, have thought deeply about how to solve them without any kind of sensationalism, right? So that's why I want to say he's sort of a perfect victim of the Me Too purity test. When I was coming up, people didn't think to ask consent. It was this like nebulous world we lived in because we didn't have the language of consent, right? So we are now at a stalemate of how to move the culture forward into providing more body autonomy, etc. Yes, while we have these prevalent national free services for survivors, a lot of times the information is inadequate. They're of little actual support. Even I worked at a domestic violence shelter, in Northern Virginia, and we got calls from all over the country. We got local calls. We have 16 beds for. We have to prioritize the people that are at imminent risk. Your boyfriend punched you in the face. That won't you. So sorry, you can't come in, right? Because we're talking about people who are like, when they're 8 months pregnant, and it's horrible listening to all those stories for years and years. And what we do by only emphasizing celebrity perpetrators is we diminish the more common ways that people are abused, the patterns, the targeted populations for abuse, which are often those from marginalized communities because they have less systematic protections within our society, such as people with intellectual disabilities, people in communal living settings, etc. To me, this is a far more egregious crime. People totally incapacitated, giving birth, right? Where are all the headlines for that victim? Where is their voice when they are not able to speak? And that's why looking at these institutional structures has to happen if we really want to address these deep problems in our society. You cannot fetishize a criminal justice solution to sexual assault and not assume that that bleeds over into any sort of crime. The prison industrial complex is a huge lobby, and they'll look for any avenue to expand their reach in imprisoning mostly marginalized people in our society. Being in prison is a trauma. Being homeless is a trauma. Being poor is a trauma. Most people do not die in prison, and thus they come out even more traumatized. People love talking about narcissists. Well, narcissism can be a product of a traumatic childhood. So we can't actually dehumanize perpetrators if we want to end the problem, because we have to understand how it started to be able to fix it. And you can't do that if you're locking everybody up. Men are more likely to be victims of SA than be falsely accused. But nobody really wants to go into those conversations, right? Even with trans kids' rights, we're often talking about hormones, hormone blockers, when really we should talk about why does needing to be able to pass matter so much when it actually keeps trans people safer if people cannot clock them, right? So that's more important, is keeping them safe, than this emphasis on upholding a gender binary where we expect certain people to look certain ways. Hollywood cases will not help us. And all you see is a perpetrator, all you will build is a prison. And when you think about police violence, don't forget to say her name.